Well, another BTC season is upon us virtually. Tell us about 2018 after a relatively disappointing, by your standards, 2017.
I mean, 2017 provided some great racing. Just the cars didn't quite fall my way. So yeah, it gives you a winter to recharge, to reload, and I'm sure the action will be just as frantic as ever as 2018 continues.
If you had to be specific, what sort of areas would you be pinpointing when you're looking back at last year as areas for improvement?
It's just, I mean, it is just constant. You're looking for all those tiny gains. But yeah, I think we know what we need to achieve. We know what we can try and work on. The margins are small, and joking apart, you need a little bit of lady luck as well. You need the cards to fall your way, and a few things didn't quite work out last year, and hopefully works a bit better this year.
And that is part of the BTCC. There are so many variables. Do you think luck really exists? Is there such a thing as luck?
Oh, absolutely. And there's, I guess, just with the nature of of touring car racing, it's reverse grids with the success ballast that we have to deal with. Sometimes you got to make those moves that are really 50-50, and whether it works for you or doesn't can really define your season one way or another. So yeah, you would take luck over talent any day.
And just talking about that, it's interesting that the BTCC have this success ballast and they're continuing with it in their own way, whereas the DTM, who had a very different system altogether, which penalized all the cars, all the manufacturers, having to drop that. What's your feeling about the success ballast in BTCC?
I'm quite happy with the ballast. Obviously, you don't like it. I always find it quite comical.
With the system is what you're saying.
Yeah, but in touring car in the UK, we have 75 kilos of ballast maximum. In DTM, they had 10 kilos and thought their wrists had been slit. So they need to realise what it's like when you have a bit more. But ultimately, motorsport is about entertainment. It's it's about keeping it exciting for the crowd, and certainly, the racing is fast, it's frantic. There's huge grids, there's massive crowds, there's great TV, and you've got to say the formula works.
And it works here too. Amazing atmosphere here at the show. What's it been like for you guys at the show and the reaction you've had from the crowds?
It's great, and I think for me, Autosport show is almost the kind of unofficial start to the motorsport season. It's a place to catch up with friends. It's a great place to see a lot of the fans and the people who are right into it, are passionate about their motorsport, and it's great to take time away from the pressures and the stresses of a race weekend to enjoy motorsport, which is what we all love.
And what do you do to take the pressures and the stresses away from a race weekend between races?
It never really stops. Obviously, I'm involved up at Knockhill, at the racing circuit there, so it's almost like having two full-time jobs. You've got the pressures and strains of professional motorsport, and then obviously the circuit as well, which has just as many challenges.
Which is a lovely circuit.
It's the best circuit in the world, obviously, was what you meant.
And I love the whole Scottish motor racing clan there, the Bernard buses and the whole thing. And it goes right back, of course, to the great days of the Scottish Formula One drivers, and it's still there. It's burning bright.
Absolutely, and I think for a wee country, it's produced an amazing amount of motorsport talent.
Yeah.
Whether it's
Scotland and Finland are the two leaders, aren't they, in terms of per capita.
In terms of the amount of people, whether it's circuit racing, rallying, bikes, engineering.
Yeah.
It is amazing when you look at what has come out of what essentially is a very small country.
And big news in Scotland this year. I know we're diverting a little bit, but the Jim Clark Museum is starting to get real momentum behind it now. That must mean a lot, I think, for everybody in Scottish motor racing.
Yeah, it's great, and I think it's something that's been worked on for quite a while. And the original museum was lovely, but now with a bit more financial backing from from the Heritage Fund, it will celebrate one of Scotland's greatest exports. And Jimmy was a hero of mine. I'm right into my historic racing just now, and I love racing the old Lotus Cortina. And obviously, Jimmy, famous for that.
He was.
For winning, British touring cars in a Cortina, in '65.
Well, he was. Yeah, we've just been talking about that actually, about how the modern ones are much too easy to drive. They don't lift the front wheel, they don't slide around. And Jackie Stewart actually hated the Lotus Cortina when he was racing it back in '64, '65. But you love it.
I think it's absolutely fantastic. I love the concept of going back to racing without data logging, without an engineer telling you've missed an apex by 3 inches, and actually being able to have a bit of input in the cars. And I've got to say, in terms of driving, I don't think I ever drive one lap with a smile on my face in the touring car currently, the modern car. I don't ever drive without a smile on my face in the historic stuff, especially in the Cortina.
Well, in terms of missing apexes, that's what Jimmy, of course, decided to try and do in the Cortina, which is why he had the front wheel lifting so much. He could just cut the corners like that.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't think any car has ever had that amount of movement.
I know.
Front wheel movement.
Can you imagine if Jim Clark raced now? Jonathan Palmer would have kittens, wouldn't he, with the amount of track and extra bits that he used to use? But that's part of motorsport.
Well, part of motorsport, and I'm glad you're a Clark fan, because that means that you've still got ahead of you the Indy 500, Formula 2, bit of rallying, all the other stuff that Jimmy did, and Formula 1, of course. But diversify even more.
Absolutely, and I think it's great to read up and understand what exactly went on back then. Obviously, Dario was a great friend, and he's got so much of of Jimmy's memorabilia, and you can almost transport yourself, close your eyes, and go back to that era, which is really, really special.
Yeah, well, it's great to hear that you care so much about the past and indeed the future. Just finish on a note of developments for 2018, how things are going to go, areas of improvement.
Well, obviously we want to win. That's
every race.
That's the ultimate. The goal remains the same, to win championships, and that's exactly what we'll all be striving for in 2018.
And how quick will the car be though, relative to last year?
Hopefully fast enough.